guys, and welcome in. My name's Tom, your neighborhood butcher, and today I'm going to welcome you into my kitchen, and we're going to make a lovely recipe today. We're going to make classic stew, Tom the neighborhood butcher style. So let's dig into this recipe. I'm going to show you all the ingredients I'm going to use, and then we're going to go through this thing step by step, and then we're going to taste this lovely stew after it's done, 6 or 7 hours later. All right, let's get at this. Let's have some fun. Let's do some chemistry in the kitchen. Yes. All right, so let's start off with the ingredients. Man, we're going to start with a beautiful chuck roast, about 2.5 pounds of chuck roast. About $6.99 a pound this week, so it's a good deal. We're going to use some sea salt, some coarse ground pepper. That's like an Italian seasoning, some ancho seasoning, Worcestershire. That's an onion soup mix pack, some brown gravy, a little bit of flour, some brown and serve, and then we're going to use a tomato, a Romo tomato, and then we have celery, carrots, and a white onion, and some little golden petite potatoes, as well as some minced garlic, some olive oil, and 4 cups of water to start with, and a nice big old crock pot. That's going to make this thing cook up delightfully. Trust me when I say that this is going to be a beautiful recipe when it's all said and done. All right, let's get started at this thing. Now some of these big potatoes, we're just going to cut them in half. Some of the small potatoes we'll leave whole, but the big ones we're just going to cut in half or in pieces and just try to make them the same size so that they all break down evenly. We don't want anything to be too big in this situation. Let's get this tomato sliced up, and I want to dice it pretty fine. And then we also want to mince that garlic next. Make sure this is pretty fine. Some other stew recipes will have, like stewed tomatoes in it, or maybe like a tomato paste or something like that, but I'm going to use all fresh ingredients in this one. Now, when it comes to chopping up produce, Tom, your neighborhood butcher, is not the best produce chopper, but I got a little bit of skill. Get a little action going on here. Not like some of those chefs that can just really pound this stuff out, but we need it nice and diced so that it mixes in really well with the stew. Now let's peel this garlic. We just want to get the outside off of it, and then we'll get it all diced up and minced. Now use the flat side of your knife and crush the garlic first. Get all the pieces and just crush them down, and they'll be a lot easier to mince and dice up. Just crush them real good, nice and flat. Lay them on their side. Don't try to crush them up and down. Lay them on their side. At least this is how I do it. All right. There's our whole plate of vegetables: celery, tomato, carrots, white onion, and our minced garlic. And then our diced potatoes. All right, now let's get into this chuck roast. You guys, I'm not cutting any fat off this chuck roast. I want every bit of fat to render into our stew. So we're just going to cut this thing up into basically 1 inch by 1 inch cubes, just regular stew meat. You see that chuck? It looks nice. There you go, diced chuck roast. All right, here's where we're going to add the flour to the meat. And then we're also going to add some sea salt and our coarse ground pepper. Just want to coat this stuff up really good. And then all this flour and meat is going to go into our bowl there. Flip all these over, and then we'll add our salt and pepper, and a little more flour, and then everything into the bowl, and then into the pan to brown. There we go. Now just a splash of olive oil. Let's get this pan nice and hot because we want to be able to brown this meat on at least 2 sides. Maybe 2 to 3 minutes on each side, 5 at the most. But you'll just want to pull up a piece of meat and take a little look at it, just see if it's starting to brown, and then just start flipping them all. I use the 2 forks to flip everything. Oh, see, there you go, nice and brown. Just a decent color on each side, or on one side, and then we're going to flip it over and allow it to brown on the other side. It's just going to just sear in the juices in this meat, and it'll take a little bit longer for everything to break down. It's a good process. I do this on a number of recipes that I do. Add a little more olive oil, another splash of olive oil. Now I've chose to use olive oil rather than butter. You could definitely use butter in this situation. Olive oil to me is a little more healthier. But if you needed to add, a fat source to it, we're have a nice chuck in this, so some of the fat's going to render into this thing anyway. So I feel like the olive oil works good. All right, so here's where we're going to use all this stuff in the bottom. I like to call it pan drippings, however you want to look at it. We add some olive oil. Here's where you add the Worcestershire. Pretty good amount of Worcestershire and a decent splash of olive oil. And then we're going to add about a half a cup of water, maybe a little bit more. And then we're going to add a little bit of garlic, just a splash of our garlic. And we're making kind of a little bit of sauce and a little bit of onion. Not too much, just enough. And then we're going to whisk this around and kind of take all of those pan drippings and kind of mix it into a little bit of a sauce here. And then this is going to go on top and just add to our gravy mixture, basically. To me, this gives it, adding the Worcestershire, it just gives it a little more of a hearty flavor. It's quick and easy. Doesn't take too long to do this. You see, I've already turned off the heat. We're just going to let this sit here. And then we're going to end up in a minute starting to put all the ingredients into our crock pot. All right, let's get all of our ingredients in here. There's our beautiful meat, all browned up and nice. We're going to add our potatoes, our golden petite potatoes. There's our carrots, onions, tomatoes, garlic, and white onions. God, that already looks good to me. And then here's where we're going to add 2 tablespoons of brown and serve. 2 tablespoons. Brown and serve is some good stuff. It gives you nice thick heartiness to your gravy. It's kind of a classic gravy base. Here we go. Add all of our sauteed goodness. Look at that stuff. I mean, you put some meat in just that right there. Stir that around, and you're going to have some just a nice gravy, whatever, to add on some rice or something. That's some good stuff right there. All right, there you go. So we put the meat in, we put the potatoes in, we put our saute mixture. There's our onion soup mix pack, our gravy pack, and then we got a little of our Italian seasoning. This is the ancho chili powder. Love this stuff. God, I add this to a lot of different things. Even my tacos gets a little ancho chili powder. It's just a good addition. A little more pepper, another dash of sea salt, and then here we'll add our water. So that was about 3.5 cups of water. Put it on high, especially to begin with. If you want it to stretch out longer, just cook it on low. All right, and then we're going to add 2 more cups of water. So that was the 3.5 cups of water, a half a cup in the sauce, and then 2 more cups. Then let's just give it a good stir. Everything gets stirred up. We already have the crock pot on high, and we just want to make sure and get the gravy pack mixed up, all the seasonings mixed up. Everything needs to be mixed up really, really well. It's about a 20-minute preparation, for all the little thises and that's. Maybe 25 minutes tops, depending on how, quick you are dicing and slicing and mincing things. But other than that, you got to stir it like 3 times maybe over a 6-hour period, 5 to 6 hour period. Or unless you want to do it on low, I mean, you could probably stretch it out to 8 hours. And then this let everything cook down into a beautiful deliciousness. This is a classic stew right here. Classic flavor with a nice cornbread. Make sure you try everything that you put together. Everything you put together, you want to taste it and see if it meets your standard of cooking. It's on high. There we go. We did the slicing, we did the dicing, we did the chopping, we did the sauteing, we browned, and we just put all those ingredients together. Remember, we added 2 more cups of water, plus that initial 4 cups that I showed you, so that's 6 cups total. Now that flour we browned the meat in, that flour, salt, and pepper mixture, now that's going to create the gravy. And then you saw we put the brown and serve in there. That's going to also enhance that gravy. And then towards the end, we'll probably add a few tablespoons of cornstarch, and then that'll thicken it up and make it truly a nice hearty stew. So let's let this thing cook. We'll stir it a few times over the next 3, 4, 5 hours, 6 hours. We're going to taste test this thing. I'm also going to cook some cornbread with it. So we're going to have stew and cornbread, and it's going to be delightful. All right, let's give this thing a try. It's been on now 6.5 hours, give or take. I did already add a few tablespoons of cornstarch to it to thicken it up a little bit. Sorry that I didn't get that on film. This thing is done and ready to go. I just want to give it a try. And you see how that gravy, it's pretty thick. It's hearty looking. I mean, this is a great, great meal. God, that looks good. Let's give it a try. Oh. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Couldn't ask for any better. Classic stew, you guys. Classic stew. Hey, thank you for spending some time with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. And please like and subscribe. You know, that's what makes it all go around. And thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye now.